This is relative banter, so there should be some banter.
Did we actually say that?
What?
That it's relative banter?
I said it.
I've lost the plot. I'm just giving myself more work at this point.
No, I mean, this is a great thing to put in the podcast that you just have an awful memory.
My memory's so good. It's already been established in episode 2, so it was foreshadowing this moment.
Hi, I'm Justin,
And I'm Luke.
and this is Relative Banter Podcast.
Today we're going to discuss Smallville Season 1, Episode 4, X-Ray. This is our little disclaimer. If you have not seen Smallville, please do not listen. We spoil a lot and often. So you've been warned.
X-Ray was directed by James Frawley and written by Mark Verheiden. I think that's right.
Where's he been, Verheiden?
All right, we're definitely saying Verheiden then if you're going to be like that.
The synopsis. Clark discovers that he has X-ray vision, but struggles to use it properly. Meanwhile, shapeshifter Tina Greer robs a bank impersonating Lex Luthor, kills her mother, and decides that she wants to become Lana Lang permanently.
Tina Greer, played by a notable guest star, Lizzie Kaplan,
of Mean Girls fame,
among other great roles. But also, like, just coming right out of the synopsis, we can say this adds our Lana obsessed count to 5 because, as you can tell, we got another person obsessed with Lana Lang.
You know what I think we should start calling that? OWLs, owls, obsessed with Lana. Our OL count.
Do we have to?
It's just easier to say.
Yoga Lattes.
Yoga Lattes. Exactly. It could be our Yoga Lattes.
It's just so fun to say. It can be our Yoga Lattes, but our obsessed with Lana count, aka owls, are up to 5, which is more than the episode number that we're on. So, like, it's more than one an episode at this point.
We're averaging 1.25 owls per episode, if you want to do the math on that.
I don't want to do the math on that. This is relative banter, so there should be some banter.
Did we actually say that?
What?
That it's relative banter?
I said it.
I've lost the plot. I'm just giving myself more work at this point.
No, I mean, this is a great thing to put in the podcast that you just have an awful memory.
My memory's so good. It's already been established in episode 2, so it was foreshadowing this moment. Anyway, should we start talking about the Freak of the Week?
The Freak of the Week, Tina Greer, starting off the episode real strong. I gotta say, obviously didn't know it was Tina, but I was not surprised to learn that it wasn't Lex. The actor, Michael Rosenbaum, did a good job of playing Lex off enough that I was like, there's something off about Lex right now. So I didn't believe it. I remember him walking in and he has a backpack on, and I'm like, this guy walks around, like all prim and proper with his suit, and he's carrying a backpack. Like, that seems off character for him right off the bat. We'd more likely see him with a briefcase.
Yes, the red backpack was a big... Well, first of all, Lex would not need to rob a bank, but the red backpack was a big indicator.
It started off in a way like, yeah, I want to close my account and take out all my money. And then, it got more and more odd as the time went on. The banker was just doing his job.
It's obvious that something is up because Lex wouldn't do that, but you just don't know what that is, which is cool.
Yeah. He runs into Clark and doesn't recognize Clark. So, like, the more the scene goes on, you're just like, yeah, something's not right.
Yeah, and he shoves Clark into the window. Then you're real sure that it's not Lex.
I want to know how much was in that account, because, like, he only makes off with like $100,000, which I guess was like all that was in the drawer. But like, I guess I don't know. It seems like a low number for Lex's family, who's supposed to be like billionaires. You know?
If we're getting into the weeds of it, I think some banks only allow you to take out a certain number per day. However, for the show's purposes, I think, and also it was 2001, so $100,000 is a lot more money than it seems like today.
Yeah, but like it is also a smaller bank. You know, it's a Smallville, local bank. So I don't know. I have questions. Is all I'm saying. But it was a pretty shocking opening scene. Definitely not what I expected when it first started. But I was like, what is he going to do with this money? Like, is it going into his company? Like, so I had a lot of questions.
And then they get answered when Lex creepily returns back to his true form, Tina Greer. Those visual effects are so creepy. They're campy, but it's more creepy than campy.
Not bad for the time, though. I will say. A lot of times when there's transitions like that, especially when the show or movie doesn't have the budget, they'll like do camera tricks, like like a shadow or something to show the change. But like pretty much every time Tina changes, you saw it, and it was pretty well done, in my opinion.
Well, this show definitely had money.
Yeah,
Plus, the US dollar to Canadian conversion.
yeah.
And then Tina talks to her mom about them having the money now to do whatever they want and go wherever they want. Then she pushes her down the stairs, sort of.
I mean, it was an accident. She didn't mean to, and then she was like upset. There's something going on with this girl. Like the media rock is like affecting her judgment because like at first she was like, "Oh no, this is terrible," and then when she goes to call 911, she's like, "Never mind, I can use this to my advantage." And then like later, like you find out that she's like hid the body, and it just seems like her mind is definitely warped from the kryptonite. I remember thinking, how did we start from like this girl that was like, "Hey, we can provide for me and my mom," to, "Hey, I'm gonna hide her in the friggin' dresser over here."
Well, at some point in the episode, Clark talks about how her bone condition was cured when she was 3.
Mm.
So it makes me wonder, why now? Why did it take this long? I mean, obviously she's always been creepy, wanting to be Lana, but why does she start doing all this reckless stuff now? Is there like an incubation period? It was just like lying dormant.
Well, I mean, this is when the show started filming, Luke.
Thank you, Captain Obvious.
I prefer
Princess Sparkle.
no. I'm not sure about why it happens at this time. I'm sure there was some type of catalyst. Maybe like they were talking about, they were like having money troubles. So like she was like, "Oh well, now I can think of a reason why I can use my powers to help us." And maybe there were other things that she did in the past that went unnoticed. But like when she's talking with her mom, it doesn't seem like this is something that hasn't been happening. Her mom makes it sound like I thought we talked about this, type of deal. So maybe this is just the first time she did something like really bad, robbing a bank. Maybe the other times she was just doing more of a harmless prank than robbing a bank.
Either that, or like I suppose they were trying to make the parallel between her power versus Clark getting his power. It comes on pretty randomly, the way he gets X-ray vision, but or maybe he was just like at a heightened state of adrenaline because he was just thrown through a window, but he gets it, and maybe it was like that for Tina too.
It's definitely a convenient timing. Anytime she changes, he's able to tell that it's her, and he's really the only one that can do that. He even says that at one point in the episode.
Yeah, it's interesting how the meteor rock is just like on her bones. I thought that was interesting. I didn't realize it the first time around that that's what they were doing with the VFX, but now this time around I was like, oh, okay, he's saying how her bones shift, like her bones got stronger. So that makes sense that the meteor rock is on her bones.
Yeah, I mean, like they mentioned that she had a rare soft bone disease and that she got over it around age 3, and then like Clark makes connections like wasn't that around the time that the meteor shower happened, and they're like, oh yeah, makes sense, the timing works out there.
Hey, your bones can get fixed, but you just lose your sanity.
Yeah, it seems like that's just the effect that the meteor rock has on people, like, it makes them go a little nuts.
See, that's kind of my issue with the Freak of the Week thing. I like the Freak of the Week, but if you really think about most of them are bad, or at least that's how they come across.
Yeah.
They come across like they're sick, it's making them sick. And
Hmm.
I don't know, you would think that they would do more to try and rid the town of meteor rock if that's what's happening. If it's poisoning the town, then why keep it there? I mean, I know that eventually it has good uses, but if it's making people sick, why continue on that path?
Yeah, I also think that it's still being figured out, really. We as the viewers are like seeing this, but like it's not exactly commonplace knowledge for like the town. Clark knows it and the Kents know it, but not everyone is aware of this. Like it was what I was talking about too in like the last episode. The coach was like he was in his sauna or his steam room, and like the steam room was like giving off this like green smoke because of the meteor rock, and it seems like he doesn't even notice. So like I kind of have a feeling that maybe they're just showing that green hue to the viewer so that we know that it's meteor rock, but maybe like the actual person is not experiencing that, and that's why it's kind of still a mystery to some people why these things are happening. Like they know it must have something to do with the meteor shower, but they're not really putting two and two together. I think that that comes a little bit later in the show that you see that they're finally putting those pieces together.
Well, yeah, and I'm getting way ahead, but like even after they do realize that it's the meteor rock, they don't really do anything about it. Not a missed opportunity, but perhaps just something I wish that they had touched on, especially during the later seasons, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a small town. Maybe they just don't have the resources. Maybe with the Luthers there, they might have the resources, and I think that that's ultimately what does happen. But outside of them, like people there are not very well off. So, but it's a fair point.
Tina accidentally knocks her mom down the stairs. Once she comes down and like comes to her mother's aid, she like flips her mom on her side, but she doesn't actually flip her. She throws her really hard, and it's like dude, like she just fell down the stairs. You're being so rough.
She probably doesn't know her own strength. I just think it's funny that this is the second time we've had a meteor infected individual go a bit nuts and like kill their mom, just like Greg did.
That's true. This show's got something against mothers.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Well, I mean, yeah, killing your parents, I guess. I don't know. At least it was an accident for Tina. Greg meant it.
But that's why I was saying it was so weird because it seems like she's doing this for her and her mom. Like she wants things to be better for them. And then like that happens, she falls down the stairs and like she goes to her aid, and within like a matter of 20 seconds like her mind shifts and she's like, "Oh, I can use this to my advantage." And it's like, damn, how warped is your mind? The whole reason you got into this situation was to make things better for you and your mom, and then as soon as your mom like accidentally falls down the stairs and I guess dies, you're like, oh, let me try and help her, and then think better of it. I don't know, it was a weird shift.
Yeah, and then there's that like cracked mirror shot. I guess that's
Mm,
supposed to indicate that her identity has shifted. I guess you have to assume that it was the meteor rock because yeah, she has this look at herself and she's fractured because she's also anybody else she could possibly be. Anyone. So
hmm.
I guess that gives her the idea of she could be whoever she wants.
Yeah.
Maybe her mom dying freed her in some twisted way.
Pretty soon after that, like when she goes and meets up with Lana, she is already like thinking about what she can do to like move on from that part of her life and like be roomies with Lana. And she's like so jealous of her life, and it's just like I get that Lana has a lot, but she also lost a lot.
She's an orphan.
Yeah. So for Tina to like envy her, it seems pretty weird. In the episode, Lana's going through a lot of different things, a lot of feelings about specifically her mother in this instance. And I think hearing Tina kind of say that like she's got it all must have been a weird moment for her, because she's going through it. She's going through her feelings, and she's also going through this transition where she's giving up cheerleading, and she wants to find herself more. She wants to figure out what she wants to do with her life. And for Tina to be envious of that, I feel like it's a very odd thing.
Yeah, it is. And in my opinion, Lana is way too nice to her. I don't know. If your friend was like, hey, could your parents adopt me if something were to happen to my parents? Like, how would you react? I feel like,
That's a weird question.
yeah, like, I don't think I've ever asked you that. We're related. So it's just like very weird to say to someone.
Yeah.
Like, why would Nell adopt this person? I mean, they're friends, but Whitney doesn't like her. I mean, for Whitney not to like someone that's just Lana's friend and not a guy.
But he's kind of on par with this one. Like everyone kind of sees that Tina's a little obsessed with Lana, and they're all kind of right, because she ends up wanting to be Lana.
Does she want to be close to her or does she want to be her? It's a kind of a fine line.
I think it starts out she thinks that they're besties, and she wants to be even closer to her and like spend more time with her. And then when Lana kind of pushes back, saying like that's not really what I want, then she kind of changes her approach to I think I want to just be her because she doesn't deserve the life that she has.
Which is crazy because
Yeah.
apart from Clark, she's probably the nicest person on the show. I feel like someone's perception of you can sometimes be wildly wrong. And I feel like Tina's perception of Lana, although incorrect, makes her insanely jealous. It's amazing what people can project onto you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. And you were right. Like Lana is a lot nicer to Tina than she deserves, but that's just Lana. Like she's just nice to everyone. And that can also be viewed as a flaw almost, because that's the problem, is that she's nice, and then once she has to like make that boundary, then people are like, but you were so nice before. So that creates like an issue. I don't really think that that's her fault, but there's some pretty weird people in this town and in this show, and then it comes back to bite her in the ass.
Tina kissing Clark as Lana. When you first watched that, did you think it was Lana or did you know it wasn't Lana?
I mean, at first, before she kisses him, I was like, this is a nice moment between the two of them. And then she kisses him. I'm like, there's no way, especially when she responds, like he says, what about Whitney? And she says, forget about Whitney. Like, you can just see that it's out of character. Because even if she does has those feelings, I don't think that Lana would ever go about it that way. She's just much more of a genuine person than that. So when they're just interacting and talking at first, I was like, yeah, this seems pretty nice. And like, she shows up in the loft, which is like becoming a normal occurrence for her. So it didn't really set off any alarm bells. He was caught by surprise. I was also caught by surprise. And I was like, what's going on here? There's also the moment later where she has like a moment with Whitney, where I'm thinking like, why is she doing this? Is this, going along the line of her wanting to be Lana, and she wants her boyfriend too? But then I think it's ultimately that she just wanted the Letterman jacket so that she can play off as him later. we talked a lot about in episode 2 about how Greg was weird, but this is pretty fucking weird too, I will say.
Yeah, it is. I actually forgot that the scene in the loft was Tina until there was a small acting choice that Kristen made in that scene with Whitney too. But it was something very small where she kind of got almost agitated with something that Clark said or something that Whitney said that made me realize it was Tina. So I have to
Mm.
give credit where credit is due because that clued me into okay, this is not Lana, this is Tina.
What was that? I don't remember.
It was right before she kissed Clark. I don't remember exactly what she said, but her demeanor shifted and her voice was no longer airy like it usually is.
Mm.
The way that she said it, basically, not what she said, it was how she said it. Maybe it was the Whitney line, but just the way that she delivered it was much different than the way that Lana would say something.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that. Honestly, I think all the actors that played Tina playing them, like, I think they did a good job. It was believable. They also had like these subtle things that they did that kind of say like, "Oh, that's weird," that doesn't seem like them.
At least Clark finally got to kick Whitney's ass, even if it was really Tina. I'm sure it felt good.
True. I liked that they show you that Tina as Whitney puts the necklace like in the pocket of the Letterman jacket, and at first it affects him, but then you see the jacket get thrown away and then it's not affected. I like that element, that you could tell why this was happening, that there wasn't like a question of like, oh, why is it not affecting him anymore. Like they subtly showed that in a way that you followed along enough to know like, oh, okay, now he can actually defend himself.
I didn't pick up on that. Like I took the glowing going away as Tina absorbing the kryptonite somehow, and I had a question about that because if she is absorbing it, then it should affect Clark, but it doesn't. But I guess it's probably what you said. I think her absorbing the kryptonite would be cool.
It could be possible, but I'm pretty certain that that's just a recurring theme, that when he's nearby it and it's affecting him, it glows, and then once it's far enough away it stops glowing, which is kind of our clue to know that like, hey, he's not being affected by kryptonite right now. But either way, I think that was probably one of the coolest fight scenes that we've gotten so far.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of headstones got ruined. Those poor people. I thought him getting Lana out of like the crypt, which like, God, that's probably scary as hell to be.
Buried alive.
Yeah, buried alive, but like in a stone crypt, like that's even a harder thing to get out of. He kind of like punches it, and I was kind of thinking like, okay, you punched it, you destroyed it, you took it off, but like he probably could have just slid it off because same use of strength, but and didn't have to like ruin the crypt. But it is what it is.
But Justin, it wouldn't have been as cool of a shot if he hadn't
I
done
know
it.
it's not cinematic enough. You're right.
And also, at the tail end of that, it was technically his first bridal carry with Lana. Not flying, of course, but
Bridal carry.
he bridal carried her out. Yeah, that's a thing.
No, I understand what you're saying. It's just I didn't expect you to describe it that way. I saw that there was like some apprehension in him. He was like, I'm gonna pick her up and take her out because she's like unconscious. It was almost like a, should I do this though? I'm like, is it okay that I'm doing this? She's unconscious. I don't have her permission or anything, but like,
What was he gonna do? Leave her there?
I know. I just noted like in the scene that there was some apprehension about it. It was also very weird going back a little bit, like just Tina like playing her mom. Like even, I don't know, just some of the choices that were made.
Yeah.
I understand the first time she played her mom because like she kind of had to. Clark and his mom come in the store, but it was just like, I don't understand why she had to steal Martha's keys and then like try to run her down with a truck as Clark. Like that was definitely an odd choice. I get thinking like she noticed some weird things, so I get the like the idea of like getting rid of loose ends, but like why did you have to be Clark and mowing her down with a car to do that? It seemed extra.
Oh, it definitely was.
you just leave a wad of cash on the floor. That's what Martha finds, and then
Oh yeah, I was looking for that.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
looking for that, and the client paid me in cash. Like, I'm okay.
You said the word damn before, and it reminded me of the scene with Clark and Pete where they find Tina's mother's body in that like cabinet or whatever, because after she falls out of the cupboard and onto the floor, her dead body, Pete, in the most deadpan voice, goes, "Whoa, who's that? Damn." The underreaction of the century, I would say. First of all, he probably knows who this woman is. If you see a dead body fall out of a cupboard, you're not saying, "Whoa, damn, who's that?" you know? Like,
Yeah,
I don't know. I felt like that was such an underreaction to like. I mean, I know that these kids have seen a lot, but
their reaction when they found Greg's dead bomb was like, "The fuck's going on?" So I also remember thinking that like like Clark just says like I could see through the wall, and and Pete's just like, yeah, real funny, and it's like, but how else do you make sense of this? There's so many times where things are just explained away, like when like Clark would make a joke like that, and I know, like, you say the term, the suspend your disbelief all the time. I just really wonder what must be going through their heads in those moments.
I mean, I guess they just have to chalk it up to the meteor rock being in the town. It must desensitize them to weird shit happening,
Yeah,
because that's really the only other way to think about it.
which is exactly what Pete said. Like, when they were walking to the store, was like, like this is Chloe's territory. Like I'm just here for the bro moments, not for the investigatory stuff. It's definitely interesting to see how this power comes to be and how he's learning how to get a handle on it. It must be a weird thing, like he's got all these powers that he's experiencing, and like some of them are new, and he's freaking himself out. He's like, like, I don't know what's going on, and I don't know how to control this. I don't know what to do. And it's really great that he has like his parents to go to like to talk him through that, because I can't imagine that that's an easy thing to go through.
Especially considering he's the only person that he knows going through that. At least with puberty, it's, everyone around you is going through that same thing. But this, he's literally alone. He has his parents' support, but they can't possibly understand what he's feeling.
Yeah, I mean, it's a version of puberty, but like I guess it's the Kryptonian version of puberty, at least under a yellow sun. That's kind of how it presents, like how
Hmm.
the show presents it, is that like he's coming into these abilities, like him hitting puberty and his body going through changes, like it's presenting in that same type of way. And it's understandable why he'd be freaking out about this, even though there might be the perks of seeing into the girls' locker room.
And then once he finds that there are other Kryptonians, he feels this like weight lifted because he's not alone.
I got the name of this episode.
What?
Peeping Tom. The podcast episode is Peeping Tom because he's peeping and he's Tom.
I hate you.
You hate me, but
I was
I'm
going on
right.
this profound,
But I'm
this
sorry.
profound headcanon that I have.
I'm sorry. I had the thought while you were talking, and I listened to what you said, and I hear what you're saying. But Peeping Tom just popped into
Peeping
my head.
Tom parentheses Welling
There you go.
parentheses Welling.
I also remember he's telling Jonathan and Martha about it, and Jonathan says he takes something out of his pocket and is like, "Tell me what's in my hand." And Clark so sure says like, "Oh, it's your pocket knife." And Jonathan's like, "Oh, you saw through my hand." And he's like, "No, you always have your pocket knife in that pocket."
Such a smart ass.
Yeah, like exactly. He's like a smartass. Exactly. He has these moments like where he's just a smartass, and he has kind of like a stone face, but then he breaks into a smile. He does that with his friends, he does that with his parents, and like I kind of like that. He has this like ongoing inside joke with people, how like he always pretends to be serious and then he'll crack a smile.
And what a smile that guy has.
Oh yeah, he lights up a room.
An angelic smile. Like,
Hmm.
I do want to talk about the last time Clark uses his X-ray vision in this episode. He does it to torture himself by looking through Lana's door and watching her kiss Whitney and hug Whitney.
Hmm.
And it's
Yeah.
like, dude, you know that that's what you were going to see. Why did you do that to torture yourself?
And that's exactly why that line that Martha delivers there is that like in that whole scene, she's realizing like, wow, like he really likes her. This isn't just like a childhood crush or something. He really likes her. And he looks through the door and he sees that. It's like a horror movie, like you're so scared, but you can't look away. And I think that that was the whole point of her making that comment. She's realizing that she's saying, like, you got to learn how to close your eyes. Like, just because you can see something doesn't mean you should look. And I think that was a good moment. Like, it was a good lesson for him, a good way for her to convey that lesson that he should be learning there. He has these abilities, and yes, it's great that he has these abilities, but just because he has them doesn't mean he has to use them all the time, especially in moments when, like you said, he tortures himself. He knows what he's going to see. He's just like, he has to see it. Okay. And now what?
Yeah, his powers have a downside, and
Hmm.
it won't be the first time this man tortures himself,
Definitely not. No.
and it won't be the last. Shall we move on to Lana and her mom?
Yeah. So the first thing I'm going to say is that somebody likes alliteration too much, because in this episode, we learn Lana's mom's name is Laura. So we have Lana Lang, we have Laura Lang, we also have her dad, Louis Lang. It's a recurring theme, like I've noticed throughout the show, and I guess also in like Superman comics, and there's just a lot of L's in his name. Like his mom from Krypton, his name is Lara, and then there's Lois Lane, another alliteration. It's just like there's so many L's. Like what's with the letter L?
Lex Luthor,
Lex Luthor, yeah, there you go. Like this, why is
Lionel Luthor,
Lionel Luthor? Yeah, why are there so many damn L's following him around? Lex Luthor is an alliteration, but technically it's not, because his full name is Alexander. His mother too, Lillian Luthor.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know, man. The letter L. Like I know that they're like there's Peter Parker and stuff like that, and like Miles Morales in Superman world. There are a lot of friggin' L's.
But his
And
mother is
Lena, and his sister is also Lena Luthor. So like, yeah, bro, like
Lutessa. Yeah,
the Luthers are all L's. The the Langs are all L's. I wonder if all the Lanes are L's. General Lane, I don't remember.
Sam Lane.
No, yes, that doesn't track.
Well, there's Lois Lane, and then there's what's her sister's name? Lucy
Yeah,
Lane. Lucy
Lucy.
Lane.
So that's an LL. I wonder if the mom is an L.
I don't know.
Lana's going through all these emotions, and then like she finds her mom's diary after like she's going through some old stuff in the garage or the shed. I'm not really sure where it is, but like I can kind of relate to the idea, like you find something old of your parents, and you see that they like at your age that they were having similar feelings to you. Like she finds that diary and she's like, I feel like I was reading my own words. I feel like it was about me, or that I had written it, or that she was like that. She says later too that like her mother was talking to her. It's very relatable. I'd say, at least to someone that's lost a parent.
The scene between her and Nell where she's like, "You lied to me,"
Hmm.
like basically she was saying how her her family was happy and that her mother was happy, but
Yeah,
she's reading the words of a 17-year-old. So any 17-year-old is going to feel conflicted in some sort of way.
yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting how her mom wanted to get out of Smallville and wanted to travel, and that's exactly what she winds up doing in season 4. She travels
Hmm.
and then stays in Smallville.
Also on this topic, I really enjoy seeing Chloe and Lana kind of bond over this. Like Lana going to see Chloe at the torch and like asking about her mom's valedictorian speech. I really thought that that was nice because like you can clearly tell that Chloe has like predispositioned kind of view on who Lana is, and it comes off that Chloe probably thinks that she's shallow, like she doesn't really have much depth. I think in this moment, like, Chloe realizes like there's more to Lana than I originally had thought. And, like it was nice to just see them interacting in such a way. And like Chloe goes out on the limb to find, track down this tape of her mother's speech because the newspaper decided not to print it. So yeah, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, and I like that Chloe kind of apologizes for making like a pom pom joke or whatever it was, because
Hmm.
she made a similar joke last episode about Lana, and she realizes that she's wrong, and we see who Chloe really is at that moment.
Yeah, I think that's something that we realize about Chloe as we go on too, is that she's not afraid to admit that she's wrong. She is very opinionated and she writes for the paper, and she's always printing some controversial things, but even still, like, I think that she is willing to see where the investigation leads her, and sometimes what she believes at the beginning might not be right, and as a journalist has that integrity to say like, oh, okay, well, I had this wrong, there's more to this than I originally thought, and that's evident here too.
Yeah, it's a sign of intelligence that she's able to change her opinion when presented with new information.
Yeah, I also think it's nice that it happens like separately from Clark, that they have like their own separate relationship. It's not like a group activity.
Hmm.
I guess there also is probably some resentment because Chloe likes Clark and she's probably jealous that Clark likes Lana.
I think by this point, though, that we don't really see very much of Chloe's crush on Clark. That doesn't really come into play yet. It's not really overt yet.
I don't know. I feel like I've always noticed it from the beginning, like not even this time around or anything. Like I just remember thinking the first time I was watching this, like Chloe definitely likes Clark. That's just something I think I picked up on. Some very tender moments with Lana, just, being in her feels about trying to connect with mostly her mom in this episode. Like, I'm sure that she's also trying to connect with her dad, but in this episode, the focus is her mom, and she's trying to feel closer to them, and that's a hard thing to do, when they're not around anymore. So it's really nice to see, like that character development of she kind of yearns for this relationship with her parents that she will never get a chance to have.
Yeah, and especially when you're like 14, 15, you have so much change happening that you want someone there to guide you through it,
Hmm.
to to make you feel less alone, to make you feel like what's happening is normal. And usually, in most cases, I think you tend to gravitate towards someone of your same gender if available.
Hmm.
Like, I very much looked up to my brother when I was younger.
Hmm.
It's just a confusing time, and so I think everything is just so much more raw, and for her not to have either one of her parents around is probably really hard.
Yeah, it's
And
rough.
yeah, her aunt Nell is there, but like her aunt Nell is also kind of disappointed that she's not a cheerleader anymore.
Hmm.
And like, I don't know. I don't know if you get this, but to me, there always feels like there's a little bit of a distance between Aunt Nell and Lana. Like, I don't think Lana really sees her as a parent. She just sees her as like a guardian.
I think that's to be expected, and it makes sense to me. But Nell definitely seems like she has something in mind for what she expects of Lana. And Lana's very in that finding herself time of her life. I think that's all the more reason why she relates to Clark. Like they have that scene where like they're talking about that and how they have such similar feelings, and like she seeks him out too. she knew that he would understand, because it's true. Like, they both have not the exact experience, but they have a similar enough experience that they can relate to each other. And she is looking for connection in that. It's like you said, she doesn't have a parent to confide in, and her relationship with Nell is limited. So when she sees the similarities between her situation and Clark's, that resonates with her, talking with someone who understands in a way what she's going through.
I think Nell is less of a parent to Lana than obviously the Kents are to Clark. Like he has parents, but he still doesn't know a lot about his origins. And Lana's able to find out a little bit about her origins now, but Clark knows nothing. While Clark doesn't know who his birth parents are and where he comes from, he still has support in the Kents. And that's something that Lana doesn't really have. Like I don't think that she could confide in Nell, or she's as close with Nell as Clark is with the Kents.
Yeah. I mean, at this stage, he doesn't really know anything. So, like, right now, all he has is the Kents. They've taken him in. I think that's the difference, is that, like, for Lana, she does know. She knows that she had her parents and that she lost those parents. He must assume that he lost his parents, or that his parents are out there somewhere, but he doesn't know for sure. For her, she knows what has happened. And maybe why it's harder for Lana to accept Nell, as a parent. It's almost like a replacement. For Clark, he doesn't have any memory of that.
Regardless, yeah, I think he's the closest thing that she has to someone who understands her, and they can confide in each other, and they do. And I think it's a testament to how seen he makes her feel that she comes to him. They're just very deep.
That's something that she doesn't really have with Whitney.
No.
And that's exactly why she's drawn to it. She has like a different layer to the relationship with Clark than she has with anybody else, not even just Whitney. So there's moments where I think that she's seeking that out, because she's like, well, I don't have this with anybody else. And that actually is a reason for Whitney to be concerned. Like, if he notices that, I would be like, okay, like, I get why that would concern you. That's the funny thing, is that he hasn't noticed that yet. He's just noticed that they have this friendship, and is just bothered by them being friends. It's like, does she not have any other male friends? I don't know, but he's just an insecure guy without even seeing the level that they're connecting on.
And I keep saying that, but like they are 14, so they don't, they're navigating a bunch of new things, new emotions. And so maybe that hadn't even occurred to her. Maybe it's just kind of like, oh, she likes Whitney, she's attracted to Whitney. While she's intrigued by Clark, I don't think she's necessarily thinking about him like that consciously. I mean, she's got eyes. I'm sure she knows he's an attractive guy, but like, I don't know that she's really thinking like Clark versus Whitney.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't remember exactly when, but you described it at one point in a previous episode, that she's drawn to him. And I definitely agree with that. I think she kind of craves that. She craves that connection, because there's so many things in her life that she's not able to connect with, because they're just not around anymore. She finds in Clark a lot of the things that she's looking for. And she hasn't exactly put two and two together there yet, but she's starting to pick up on it.
Yeah, because she's on a run and she winds up at Clark's subconsciously. That speaks for itself.
Yeah. Yeah. There's that really nice scene at the end of the episode where she's just like, she finally gets a chance to listen to her mom's speech. That's a really nice moment, that she, finally gets to hear her mother making that speech, and just fall into relating to her. I think that that's a really nice moment, that she gets that kind of closure at the end.
Yeah. It's kind of bittersweet. It's like she finally got to listen to it, but also it sucks because her mom is gone.
Yeah, but before that, like in the graveyard, when she was kind of talking to her parents like she does, she was saying, like every time I feel like I'm getting close, like something pulls you away. But here's a moment where that doesn't happen. She's able to actually connect to them. How often, especially at a time like that when technology wasn't too prominent, do you have like a recording of your parents speaking, especially at a young age and stuff? So it must be really nice to have that.
Yeah. It's one of very few times in the series that things actually go along his ways.
Yeah. And even when it does, it's still sad.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean like the rain pouring. I mean,
Yeah, and she had such a rough night too, like, she was already going through it, and then what she thinks is her boyfriend like attacks her and says some pretty mean things and then buries her alive. And then after all that, she gets to listen to a tape of her mom, which is nice but also sad at the same time. So like, poor Lana, she had a rough night.
getting buried alive wasn't enough. This is a very small plot line, but Lex and his sealed juvenile record.
Well, not so sealed. I think it's funny right off the bat, like when we see Lex come in, we see him come to the Kent farm saying like, obviously this wasn't me. I have an alibi. I go to Metropolis. There was like a moment where he says the people that already have a bad opinion of him, like that this is just gonna make it worse. Jonathan just says like, I gotta go work. Just to say like, I gotta get away from this because you're not wrong. I already have a bad opinion of you, and this is not making it any better, even though you have an alibi.
My favorite part of that scene is when Lex is like, "I'm not a criminal mastermind." It's like,
Yeah,
what? Not yet.
yeah. And then it's funny too that Clark makes that joke is like, yeah, a criminal mastermind would have wore a mask. And they have that like that moment where they both like kind of look at each other and laugh. Yeah, it's a funny moment because like we keep talking about how most of the main characters are young kids, but like Lex may be an adult, but he's like a young adult. He's still finding himself as well, and he still has this innocence to him in some respects that he doesn't have later. I think he's trying really hard to like win over some people like Jonathan, and them not being won over is hard on him because he doesn't want to be perceived the way people perceive his father. You can almost say that them perceiving him that way is almost what leads to him just kind of leaning into it because he's like, well, if people see me this way anyway, I might as well be. You can see how that makes it hard to be a better person because people are always believing the worst in you.
I would like to think that his juvie record was sealed because he did something to better himself. This version of Lex, I would like to think had learned something, and maybe that's why the juvie record was sealed. But then again, Lionel could have paid off a judge too. So
But that's the thing is that even if Lex did mean well and didn't need that type of protecting, that Lionel would still do it anyway to protect his reputation.
oh, of course.
Yeah, so it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. He's always looking out for himself.
Yep, which is how he winds up turning that reporter and gets him to work for him in finding out the mystery that is Clark Kent.
Yeah, and how he survived that car crash. That's the whole thing is that like you see these moments where Lex is like playfully innocent and like saying, "No, I'm obviously not a criminal mastermind." Someone threatens him to expose his dark past, and all of a sudden he kind of is a little bit of a criminal mastermind. He's making this guy disappear off the face of the planet. Deleting his bank accounts and his phone service. There's definitely two sides to him. There's this evil side that like will stop at nothing, and then there's also this innocent side where he's like trying to say like this evil side of me is not really me, yet you still continue to do that type of thing. So it's definitely an internal struggle going on there.
Yeah, the good versus evil in him is definitely at a tug of war. But I think ultimately his obsession with figuring out how Clark saved him wins out because of his own curiosity. He needs to know. how Clark did that. Otherwise, he wouldn't have his car in some room like a shrine.
Yeah. Clark has piqued a lot of people's curiosity.
I do want to talk about theme just a little bit.
Okay.
What I gathered was the theme, or like a thematic going through the story, was identity or facades. In the literal sense, you have Tina is the shapeshifter, and then you have people assuming Lana is someone she isn't, whether that's Tina, whether that's Chloe. Same thing with Lex. We have, Lex appeared to rob a bank, but didn't. But then we find out he had a juvenile record.
Mm-hmm.
And then Clark has a dual identity, which is also mentioned in the episode too by Tina.
Mm.
So it's like it's an interesting through line, and the episode definitely plays around with different versions of identity and different versions of facades.
It's interesting to see a light already being shined on that so soon. I think it just kind of goes to like what I've said more than once is that like there's more to people than meets the eye. They're all coming into their identity right now. They're still finding themselves and figuring out who they are and who they want to be.
It's always fun when an episode has, most of the time, writers pose a question and then the episode will answer it, and each character is the different side of that story.
Yeah.
So I guess like Tina would be the facade is something bad, whereas with Clark, his facade is that he is a normal human,
Mm-hmm.
but he's obviously not. So it's a necessary facade, and it's not necessarily a bad facade. So I'm sure there's something in there that is a question.
In his case, especially now, like because he doesn't know. Like he knows that he came from somewhere, like he has his pod, but he doesn't know anything about that, like where he came from, why he came here. Like, so I feel like it's definitely a harmless facade for right now because he doesn't have many answers for himself or others. So for this deep dive, we were talking about the soft bone disease that Tina's character is supposed to have. It's called osteomalacia. Osteomalacia, I think. It's a condition in which your bones soften and weaken, causing them to break more easily. It most often affects adults due to lack of vitamin D. Your body needs vitamin D to absorb calcium and phosphorus to help your bones maintain their strength and hardness. Without enough vitamin D, your bones don't mineralize as they usually would and leads to bone fragility. So that kind of sucks.
Yeah. I like that they give a scientific explanation as to what the meteor rock was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like how it's not that she's necessarily a shapeshifter, just like, fantasy wise. It's that her bones can morph to such an extent that she can look like other people. So I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, it is still fantasy, but like I like that they
Yeah.
gave some sort of scientific explanation for as to why she can shapeshift.
Yeah. It doesn't explain why her voice changes, though. When she becomes another
No,
person, her voice sounds like them. But yeah, at least there's some sort of explanation. And it wasn't just like, this is happening.
I'd never heard of that before, so I had to do a little research on what it was, and now it makes sense that her bones were so frail, and Meteor Rock magically repaired it and turned her into a shapeshifter.
So, you got any favorite scenes, favorite shots?
I really liked the mirror shot with Tina before she decides to be evil. I love a broken mirror shot. It's a tie between that and the shot with Lana at the end, listening to her mother's tape. What about you?
I really like the scene with Lana and Clark where they're kind of just bonding over the unknown, really, like the things that they don't know about their past. She's talking about her mother being able to see right through her, and it's funny in the moment because you're like you're thinking about like the changes that Clark is going through with being able to, see through walls and stuff. But also like on a deeper level, like it's saying she can see right through him and he can see right through her, and they're understanding each other on a deeper level. And it struck me as a nice moment between them.
The subtext on this show is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it seems on the nose, but it's stuff that we know that the characters most of the time don't know. Like
Yeah,
these winks, like the criminal mastermind, the see right through me,
the dramatic irony of it all for sure.
Yeah. I don't remember any songs from this episode, to be honest with you. A lot of it was just kind of tucked in the background. There was a lot going on, so
I noticed one right at like the very beginning. Movies by Alien Ant Farm started out the episode, which is really cool.
I did like that one. I don't think I've ever heard that song.
I have, but yeah, that was something I noticed like right at the beginning. That was the only one I can remember.
It did catch my attention, but I didn't know it was Alien Ant Farm. A quick shout out to Chloe's Gateway computer.
Yes, I saw that.
Haven't heard of one of those in a long time. They are slow as hell.
It's so funny that you noticed that because like I took notice of that too. It was like I'm so used to like TV shows nowadays that they don't show like the brands of things, or they do something to like make it different. And like that one was just like one that stuck out to me. I was like, wow, Gateway.
Get that product placement money. I don't think there's any other really notable 2000s things that I recognized.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I think of Gateway as like a one hit wonder. Like they had a little bit of time and now you don't hear anything from them. No idea what's going on.
You're trying to say that Gateway was a gateway drug to other things?
I had one and now you have one.
I have one what?
Bad puns.
I also made the bad pun that is going to be the episode title. So
I'm sure that there are going to be a lot of episodes that could be called Peeping Tom.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, this one is pretty specific. He's getting his X-ray vision, and looking in the girls' locker room. So I don't think we get much more Peeping Tom than that.
On that note, do you think this episode was better than last week's, or did you like last week's better?
I do like this episode better than last week because I feel like the last episode was more about the Freak of the Week storyline than this one was. This had a lot more character development in it, and I enjoyed that. Not that there wasn't in the last one, but it was more intertwined with the Freak of the Week stuff. This was kind of like there was a lot of character development outside of the Freak of the Week, in my opinion. Well, that's it for this episode.
You can follow us at Relative Banter on Twitter/X, and on Instagram, we are Relative Banter Pod.
If you have any questions or comments, feel free to email us at relativebanterpod@aol.com.
Join us next week when we discuss episode 105, Cool.
See you then.